Our kids won't get the same opportunities we did. This is the reason we must focus on creating generational wealth, but it's also what will divide us even further. That assumption that your kids will have it as good as you was true for decades, but in this era with skyrocketing house prices, wages that aren't keeping up, and a broken retirement system, that dream is gone. And unless you're building generational wealth, they'll be worse off. Hi, I'm Will Bell. I'm a mortgage broker based in Melbourne, and I help Australians figure out how to make it financially. This has become a lot more difficult since I started in the industry 19 years ago. In Australia, we've been sold a simple dream. Get a job, buy a house, retire on super, done. And for a while, that worked. In 1990, the median Melbourne house price was around 120 grand. One income could support a mortgage. In fact, back then you didn't even need to have super for retirement. A modest government pension was enough. Today, well, things have changed. We're still playing this game by the old rules. We still think if I own my own house and have a little bit left in super, I've done pretty well. What we're not seeing is that this system doesn't work anymore. Not for us, and definitely not for our kids. The game has changed and the old rules won't help younger generations. If this topic is striking a chord with you, then please subscribe, because I'm going to be publishing more content around the wealth divide that's growing in this country. Later on in the video, I'm going to talk about why the topic of generational wealth is going to drive another wedge into the gap between the rich and poor. When I talk about generational wealth, I'm talking about giving future generations the financial hand up they're going to need. I'm talking about helping your kids into a home earlier without gutting your retirement. I'm talking owning more assets so your grandkids can start from something. Having enough that your family isn't starting from zero like most Aussies have done in the past. Only 1 in 5 Aussies get an inheritance over $50,000. This means 80% of Australians start again, every generation. That is nothing compared to the personal debt levels of Australians. However, more and more we're finding that the inheritance just pays off debt. That doesn't get you ahead, it just gets you less behind. Personally, generational wealth is about having assets that create income that can be passed down. Here's an uncomfortable truth: the system has shifted. Times have changed and most people haven't caught on yet. They're still waking up to the fact that their kids will be on the wrong side of the wealth divide unless something is done about it. We're living in a different world now. Home prices have skyrocketed in recent decades. Wages, they've barely moved in comparison. Super isn't enough to retire on comfortably anymore. And let's face it, the pension system isn't something that you want to rely on. Here's the truth. You're earning more than you've ever earned, but your savings aren't growing as quick as what they should be. Maybe you're helping your adult kids, maybe with rent, maybe with a car, but still they can't move out. You're working past 65, not because you want to, but because you can't afford not to. And this is happening all across the country. Nearly 40% of young Aussies are moving back in with mum and dad. They've dubbed this cohort the boomerang kids. We thought we were doing it right, but the goalposts have moved. Meanwhile, your kids are entering a world with more uncertainty. They're getting into property later at higher prices. The average first home buyer is now 37 years old with a mortgage of 30 years. This means more debt for longer. It takes both mum and dad working their backside off just to pay the bills to cover an average size mortgage these days. Imagine working your whole life and still leaving your kids less than you had. That's the brutal reality for a growing amount of Australians. The number of people getting to age 65 with mortgage debt is also increasing at a rapid rate. Unfortunately, these days starting with nothing means starting behind. And if we don't step in to change that, the kids may never catch up. Our parents didn't have to think about this stuff, but we do. If you don't look to build generational wealth, here's what happens. The wealth divide continues to grow, as it's been doing for decades. We're turning into a class system where you're either a renter or you're an owner. The income divide is already evident. Asset prices are going up faster than incomes, meaning it's becoming harder to buy assets if you have a normal income or no generational wealth. And that's no legacy, that's just surviving. Let me explain. The richest 20% keep growing their wealth. But it's not from the poor. The poor have no wealth. It's from the shrinking middle class, which is most of us. This is the nature of the system we're in now. The term the working poor hasn't been a thing before because the wealth divide wasn't as large. What happens if we don't help the next generation is they will move closer to the wrong side of the wealth divide. Putting it simply, a tougher life. I've been commenting on the property market here on YouTube for the past few years. What has become increasingly clear amongst normal Australians is that the system is cooked and it doesn't favour future generations. There are people that have understood this and taken action. Sometimes they're becoming the bank of mum and dad to help their kids into the housing market sooner. Sometimes they're just buying up investment properties because they know their kids won't afford one when they're adults. Here's the thing. This acknowledgement that things are not going to become easier is making things harder. Let me explain. All these people are already rushing in to create generational wealth. They might see it as just helping their family, but that's what it is. That is bringing demand forward and it's helping push house prices higher. This will accelerate as people become more aware that the system is transforming into a class-based system where you are either rich or you're poor. Generational wealth isn't a rich people game. It's a requirement because the other side of that coin could be generational poverty. If this message hits home, show your support and subscribe to the channel. If you need help on generational wealth, you can find my details in the links and we can talk about how you can get started. Cheers.